Just as it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a team of parents, teachers, and volunteers to not only teach children how to read, but to teach them how to enjoy reading. In her book, Reading Together, Diane Frankenstein talks about everything you need to know to raise a child who loves to read. Diane is also a literacy coach, and she joins me now. Welcome to Connecticut Style.
Thank you for having me.
I think right off the bat, Diane, we should mention what a literacy coach is.
A literacy coach is like any other coach, whether it be an athletic coach. It's somebody who's really giving you tips and strategies on how to do what you know how to do, but how to do it better. So it's more effective and useful and enjoyable.
And how did you become a literacy coach?
So I'm an educational consultant, and for years I was working with children and teachers and parents about how children really become good readers. And early on I saw that something was missing, that it's not enough to teach children how to read. That's really just the beginning, that children, no different than adults, need to talk about a story for them to really understand a story. And when children understand what they read, they enjoy what they read, and enjoyment drives reading. So if we want children to be good readers and lifelong readers, they have to be able to find pleasure in reading and trying to figure out what the story means. And that's what Reading Together is all about. How do you find meaning? How do you figure out what the story's about?
And would this come from parents? Reading to children at a young age, would that start the process?
We want children to be read to from at birth on. But the key, and we all know that the most important thing parents can do is to read aloud to children. But what we now know, which is rather new information, that many of the benefits of reading aloud are lost unless there's that component of the verbal interaction. Children really learn many of the skills they need to get ready to learn to read. Those skills are first learned in conversation. So that talking, that interaction between a parent and a child or a caregiver or whoever is interacting with that child, it's the verbal interaction about the story that really gets children ready to be good readers.
So would you be able to give us an example of how a parent might be able to jumpstart that conversation?
You can have a conversation about a 32-page picture book. You can have a great conversation about a book that has no words. But you don't even need a book to have a good conversation. You can start asking children, what did you have for breakfast? Where are we going today? What are we going to do at the playground? What color is your dress? That's a beautiful red dress. It's not red, it's purple. So my point is, we want parents to understand the importance of vocabulary. Children need an adequate vocabulary so when they enter school, they're ready to learn to read. So what Reading Together really does is it gives parents and teachers the conversations to have about the books, and there's also an area in the book that you can just have conversations on subjects about that matter to children.
Sure. Well, we should mention the book. It's not really a textbook. It's more like a play-by-play, would you say?
It's really a how-to. That's a good point, Teresa. I had no interest in writing a textbook. I didn't think it would be very useful. Reading Together came from really, again, I've been doing this for so many years, and not just in the U.S., but also in many foreign countries and different cultures. And what I found is that every parent, I don't care where they live, and every teacher wants the best for their child. And they know the best starts for children to be successful in and out of school. They need strong literacy skills. They need to be able to read. And where that begins is the oral communication. So it starts with parents, and it doesn't have to start just with books, but we want to really underscore the emphasis of the importance of talking with children and how we talk with them. And children learn language not through a gadget and not through a flashcard. They learn it through conversation.
So speak to your children, bottom line here.
Speak to your children and look at them, give the eye contact. I know we all live in the world of technology, but a parent who is distracted, who thinks they're spending time with their child when they're really sort of plugged in or, you know, texting, we all do it. That's really not helpful to the child. So the way you interact with your child, the eye contact, the body language. When I work with children in school, it's really clear to me that children who come with an advantage because somebody has spoken to them in the house, somebody has asked and answered their questions.
Taking the time.
Taking the time. Give your heart and your time.
Let me ask you, how do you know if a book is right for a child?
Great question. Children only read for story. So if a child's having difficulty getting to the story, meaning understanding the story, there's nothing wrong with the child. The book is not the right book. So we want to be careful. One of the myths is that if I offer my child really difficult books, they'll become a much better reader. And it's the exact opposite. When we offer children books that they can easily understand the story, because we're going to talk about the story, that's what happens when children really enjoy what they're reading. So age and stage appropriate and reading level is important. We want to make sure that the child understands and can easily get to the story.
I want to ask you, you make a point in the book to find other times besides bedtime to read books.
Yeah, I mean, I love the bedtime story read, but I also think I'm a parent, and I remember sort of that bedtime, everybody's tired, the attention span is a little bit low. You know, it's at the end of the day, so I love the bedtime read. But let's be a little bit more creative. I happen to be a morning person, okay? And to me, there's nothing better than a good book with a cookie, a conversation, a snack in the afternoon. So a quick poem at breakfast.
Good way to start the day. Now, Diane, you have some workshops in December. Where can people find more information?
Okay, so they can find the information at dianefrankenstein.com, and they can sign up and be in contact, and hopefully we'll see some of your viewers.
Sounds great. The name of the book again is Reading Together, Everything You Need to Know to Raise a Child Who Loves to Read. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Teresa.
All right, stay with us. Up